This is MFG Out Loud. Courageous conversations about sales and marketing for today's manufacturers. With your hosts, Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore.
So episode 24, when we finally got there, I think you had met Miss Lorraine Ball, who runs an agency in Indianapolis, I think.
Yes.
She's
Hoosier, but she's not a Hoosier.
Sister from another mister, right? And at the time, when it's still pretty impressive, because by episode 24, we were still and still are podcast novices. And I think Lorraine has something like 500, probably close to 600 podcast episodes under her belt right now. So
that's crazy. She's the maven.
Oh man, talk about a content machine and knows her way around. She has so many great insights on the B2B, the working with distributors, the building products distribution side of things, and how that had all kind of evolved. And I remember one of the things she had brought up, and I'll throw this one out there for conversation. He says, you need to use more of what you know about your customers, meaning data, to create an experience for them that's not limited to your products. So she was really working with the distributors. It's like, hey, you're out there and you're talking to them. What are the real issues that the ultimate end customer is having? And I remember part of it revolved around having conversations about some accounting and costing, stuff that you wouldn't think of as a distributor. But if you brought in an expert or held a webinar or something, you've just added a lot of value for the people in your group, your business partners. And I just thought that was such great insights. Because she's been on the inside, I know, working with really large companies, and now working with the distributors that might sell to the smaller end of things. She really kind of gets that end-to-end, side of things. Any recollections stand out on your end? I think you were on her podcast at one point, weren't you?
Yes. She did have me on her podcast, and it was so much fun. Her podcast is 10 minutes. So we had to pack in a whole lot in 10 minutes. And she is just, again, such a generous marketer and content creator. And I would say, we learned so much from her about podcasting. She's incredibly professional. And I think, her knowledge of working with distributors was just particularly interesting for any manufacturer that's listening that wants to do a better job supporting your distributors. Because most of them are relying on you to market for them and really drive those pull-through sales. And there's like a miscommunication. It's like sometimes I think distributors are treated almost like the stepchild. There's not there's a lot of room for opportunity and with your distributors, and she's incredibly knowledgeable about how to do that.
She was good. You're right. Because she stressed, kind of inviting them into the process. She also said one of the good gut checks is if the way you've been incentivizing, your distributors, if it's the same now as it's been for 5 years, you really need a tune-up. Because it's like just everything has changed so much and so quickly. So great insights. Lorraine Ball, check out her episode. She's number 24 with us, number 1 in our hearts. Find her on LinkedIn, and awesome lady. Great. Talk about a content machine. Just putting out some great stuff. Number 25, we had our friend Kathleen Burley from G Camp, Golden Quarter, in the Chicago area. And Kathleen shared generously about her background, having owned and run a manufacturing organization. I think she had a distributor at some point. Started in sales, took over a business, sold that, relocated, got involved in a lot of stuff, like a bunch of us. If you're around long enough, you get involved in a lot of things. But what great passion for the industry and for bringing that next generation through, getting them interested and involved in what's going on. She's brings such passion and experience working at the school board level, bridging that gap between students and the manufacturing community. And even she was the first one I had talked to when I first met Kathleen, because she's Chicago area like I am. When I first met her, and the big push was a lot of the high schools were just now putting their shop, they were restarting their shop programs and those types of things. And I says, yeah, you got to get into the high school. She goes, I got news for you. High schools are even too late. She says, if you're not getting into the grade schools, and most importantly, talking to parents about the opportunities in manufacturing, she says you're actually kind of behind the curve. But she's been an early great supporter of MFG Out Loud, and we've returned the favor along the way. And I know you've had some conversations with her along the way as well.
Yeah, I would say she is such a contributor to, solving the skills gap problem, and really, getting young people excited about manufacturing. Yeah. She's just like, she's more than a cheerleader. She's like a coach, like I feel like she's at this higher level, and just knowing her is, it's a great episode.
And she does a lot, not only for GCAMP, Golden Corridor Association of Manufacturing Professionals. I hope I got that right. They're in the Chicago area. She does a lot with them, a lot of outreach to the businesses in the Chicagoland area, a lot of outreach to the local schools, everything from grade school to high school to community college and beyond. She does outreach in the communities as well. Does a lot of work with like Elk Grove Village, which I think in the United States, it's the largest, the community with the largest industrial park population, something like that, in the country. Very pro business, and Kathleen's been a huge supporter and sponsor, and vice versa with that group as well. So if you've got interest in workforce development and what's going on and what our best practices, Kathleen's somebody you got to reach out to and follow online and just connect with her. She knows a lot of stuff. So.
Yes, so true.
Awesome. Episode 26 was our first double header. We had Mr. Andy Solomon join us, who's involved in sales training with a very big organization, and Mark Roberts came to us again as well. We were kind enough to meet Andy through Mark, and it was really a great tag team episode to learn what's going on. One of the things that really stood out in our conversation with Andy was that you have to understand how your customer makes money if you're going to help them to make money. If you can help your customer make money, that's what's going to make you the trusted advisor that differentiates you from everybody else. So very much you make it about them. I mean, how many guests have we had where we talk about this? Mark Mitchell's advice, I've got 15 minutes. What do I do? Don't talk about you, talk about them. Same thing, Andy Solomon's, views on the importance of training, on how to sell. That's another one where, he and Mark were of like mind. So many times there's training. We say most salespeople have received more product training than they're ever going to use. They know more about the widget and how it's made, but in reality, what really matters and resonates with the customer? Well, their problem. Good for you. You know how to make it. Here's my problem. How do we get there from here?
Yeah, I think I personally have never met a head of sales that has created such an incredible training program for their sales team. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
And the results
detail that he goes to. Yeah. He really sweats the training, and the detail side of it. He doesn't buy into the myth of the salesperson that is just a born salespeople.
Yeah.
Hey, no question. Some people take to it better and easier than others, and some people are predisposed to be hunters versus farmers. But without training, you're not going to be particularly good at either one of them, or you're leaving a lot of money on the table, at the very best. So yeah, Andy has lived it. Mark trains it. So that was an awesome episode. I really enjoyed having those guys, back on the show. And number 27, one of our more popular shows. This is another one where correlation and causality. This was the one I wasn't there, and you handled this one. And what happens? Big hit. So, but you did an awesome job. It was a great topic. Tell us and remind us a little bit about your conversation with Brent.
Yeah, Brent Hardman from Powell Solutions. Wow, he went from intern to CEO. Yeah. Now, obviously, not it didn't take 10 minutes. He's been with the company 24 years, but such an incredible story. Mm-hmm. I personally think that's why it's our most watched and listened to episode to date, is because of the story. He started there right out of college, and then the opportunity came about to buy the business. Yeah. And he and two partners purchased this. And then it was, how are we going to carry on when the owner passed away? And he was such a huge presence. Like, the company, the identity was so much tied with the former owner. And so talk about an amazing job to talk about succession planning.
Right.
And I know a lot of people talk about it, but he said, you know what, unless you really spend the time to create that plan, he said, you've got to. Yeah. You've got to plan for what if, especially if your business is so inextricably tied to the owner or, the founder. He said, you have to plan ahead. And so many good quotes came from him. It was such an amazing episode. You'll learn so much from his journey. And he said, continuously asking yourself, why are we doing this? Yeah. He said, always ask why. And that's the same thing I tell clients, is start with why. If the why is clear, the how-tos will appear all around you. And he said, always ask, why are we doing this? And then go. He said, don't stop and wait and ponder it forever. He said, that's one of the secrets to their success, is especially when the owner was alive. He'd say, sure, you're going to mess up, but that's just part of the day-to-day. It's the only way forward. And Brent said that was one of the greatest lessons he learned from the previous owner, was failing is okay. Yeah. It's the only way to grow. And so, I think that's why it's the most popular episode, is his story is so down to earth, and God, the knowledge that this guy has, it's crazy.
Yep. And what they've done with the business, global players, advanced technology, everything about it. I agree. The quote I had taken from there as well is, a great leader gives people permission to fail. Turning a failure around leads to immense opportunity. Yep. And I think if there was anything he carried forward from the founder and that legacy culture, it was, that's the nugget, because that's timeless. That's a timeless touchstone that the organization can always build and innovate upon. That's awesome.
Well, I think the fact that they've made bleach cool, is another testament to their marketing. They rebranded, sadly, before he met me. And, but they have done what's that?
I was going to say, think how much cooler it could be.
I know, right? No, they're in 40 countries, and that is no small feat. And they are they're in St. Louis, Michigan. So they're this, small manufacturer in St. Louis, Michigan, which I never knew there was a St. Louis, Michigan. And they made producing bleach cool. And it's a matter of not just coming up with crafty messaging, right? Or smoke and mirrors marketing. It's really authentic, and it's about understanding your audience and understanding what matters to them, and then speaking their language.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing they're really good at Powell.
Yep, they absolutely are. No, that was a great episode. Great episode. 28, we had Mr. Terry Iverson.
Terry,
what a great guy. Working on the next chapter of his career. A gentleman who took over the family machinery distribution business, as a young guy, and built it up. I've certainly known of Iverson Machine since my entire time in manufacturing in the Chicago area, and to have the opportunity to get acquainted and not only talk shop about that business and his journey and those things, but that next chapter that he's involved in to get young people into the trades, into manufacturing, get them interested and excited.
Yes, I'm grabbing his book.
Okay, good. He's and a guy that's so generous with his time, knowledge, and experience. Hold up the book there. I
am going to hold it up. Okay.
There we go.
Finding America's Greatest Champion.
That's the one. Which he wrote, as I understand it, pretty much all in one go on a flight to Taiwan. Oh, you got the signed version.
I actually have a couple that I would be happy to give anybody listening who emails me for free. So let me know.
There you go. And Terry not only makes the case for why we need more young people back in manufacturing to get interested and involved in the trades. There's plenty of folks waving banners and statistics around, but he's actually doing something about it. And he's created a not-for-profit organization. He lectures continuously. He sponsors summer camps for kids, and this isn't where you go sleep in the woods and sing Kumbaya. It's come through a company or whatever. And he has sent machinery down so kids could gain experience on these different types of, grinding or milling machines, those types of things, just to, see it and experience it. Because for a lot of these kids, they've never even been around it and just have no idea, what it's all about. And what I particularly enjoy about Terry is he's multi-generational. This is a person, writing the next chapter of his career, been at it, 40 plus years. And he's very much about what can I learn from the younger generation. And I love one of his quotes. He says, millennials or, other generations, they don't think like boomers, and that's not a bad thing. He says they're able to reverse mentor us, which I thought was an interesting concept.
I love that.
And we can always learn more. So I think that's so important.
Yep.
In our industry, to not feel like, I'm a young person is going to come and talk to somebody that looks like me, or whatever, and think they're going to get talked down to. That's not the case. Like, trust me, we're learning new tricks, and and Terry's leading that charge, and was a wonderful guest to have on.
Yeah, definitely don't miss that episode. He's a generous human, and he is making a difference in manufacturing by exposing young people to all the possibilities. So can't thank him enough.
No, that's awesome. And speaking of young people in manufacturing, relatively speaking, episode 29, we had Tom Hilaris from Ergo Seal. What a great story. There was our millennial in manufacturing, but really learned so much about his journey and his business and how he's brought it along. And it's really one of those business transition success stories that's happened. And that requires a pretty unique environment, a pretty unique family, a great culture, and the things that Tom's been able to do since taking over the business. I think we talked about on the episode within his first year, if I'm not mistaken, he did 2 acquisitions. Basically stuff it would take most business people, a lifetime or a full career to be able to accomplish. He pretty much pulled off in the first year, and then it was like, okay, next. But he's done such cool things, with the business. He really is a benchmark that I regularly point to when I'm on other podcasts or talking to clients and those types of things. Do you have any recollections you wanted to point out?
Yes. The one thing that I loved about his story is, I know a lot of us have come in contact with, family businesses. You and I had one of our earliest episodes of this podcast was about the family business. And it's funny, most manufacturers that I work with are or started out as a family business. And I think the cool thing about Tom is, and we've all seen this, you have the kids who are, maybe they're a little spoiled. And then they just get the keys handed to them when dad retires. And it's like, you didn't really work for it. And we've all experienced, and then all the employees are like, oh shit, this is going to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
Well, man, Tom is the complete opposite. I mean, this guy worked in every position from what I recall, and just really has an appreciation for the employees, for the values, their talents, and the years that they've put in. And really, like, man, if I had to work for a company business where the kids took over, I'd say Ergoseal. I mean, the culture is it's truly incredible.
And the thing, the culture is phenomenal, and the attitude to continue to innovate. And what I really liked, and the thing I point out, is that a lot of what he's accomplished, he had the idea. It's like, I'm thinking of doing this thing that I don't typically see small businesses doing. And he went out and kept asking, and he found resources. And that doesn't mean hire big 8 accounting firms or consultants stuff. He can rattle off a list of, trade organizations, MEPs, all kinds of different, state-run things. He went and found sources for help that were either inexpensive or free. He's not afraid to talk to peers to get advice about how to do stuff. And it's just kind of taking that fearlessness, which I'm sure was there when his father started the business, and everything else. And that's what I think the next generation really has the ability to bring, is this openness to bring in other ideas. He brought him in and ran with him, and he's building an awesome business. He really is. He's doing some stuff at his size that big companies with plenty of resources should learn from and be doing. And that's that was cool. We're glad to have him on board.
Yeah, definitely check out that episode and follow Tom Hilaris on LinkedIn. He is an amazing millennial, and I think really dispels the myths that some of us that exist about millennials, what they're like, he was a treat.
Yeah, it was. It was great guy. Coming up on episode 30, we had Mr. Jack Burley, who was now here's another story. When we talked to Jack, he was vice president of engineering and sales, which in and of itself was a weird combination, but made for an awesome episode that we had, and we'll get to the meat of that episode. But I just wanted to remind our audience and our listeners that when we talked to Jack, he was vice president of engineering and sales. Now he's the president of the company. Just saying.
See what happens when you come on this podcast?
See, I'm just saying. Was it because of us? Anyway.
Maybe.
Anyway, what a great guy. Learned so much. So engaging. The whole conversation, I remember, started about the Book of Boring.
Yes.
And where that came from. Talk about baptism by fire. The organization he was with, send him, I think, to Germany, to Switzerland, or wherever. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
to learn the business. And at the time, gosh, whatever it's been, 25, 30 years ago, international travel wasn't like it is now. You went to the factory, you had a meal in your hotel, and you sat in your room.
Yeah.
And they gave them the book of boring, because their company was into boring bars and machining and all kinds of different stuff like that. And it taught him the importance of really knowing, what it is that you do and where the value add comes from. And what a great journey he took us on.
Yeah.
As an engineer that was put into the sales function, and how he built some process around that, and just looked at, well, the customers that buy from us seem to be the ones that we help solve problems for. So why don't we talk to them on a more regular basis about how we solve problems? And what was their statistic? I think they've been blogging, is it every month or 4 times a year?
I think it was every month, and it's been how many years?
Like 10 years.
Crazy. Like way before blogging was cool.
Yeah, and certainly it had to be one of the earliest, in the manufacturing space to be doing that. And just with some real leading edge insights about how to engage with and solve problems, for their customers, because that's their bread and butter. And their company, Big Kaiser, I mean, they are, when the aerospace guys need something, because they're working on Inconel to machining it down to, basically smoke, angstrom tolerance. These are the guys you talk to Big Kaiser, about their work holding stuff. And so it's really leading edge, but they make it so accessible and approachable and user friendly. And he's just had such great insights and experience about that engineer to sales and marketing. And to the company's credit, putting someone like that in that role, Jack admitted it helps break a lot of ties, because you help overcome the obstacles that all 3 of those areas might be having.
Yeah, I think what was so cool for me and for our listeners is Jack is one of the first engineers that I've ever met who actually also understands and values sales and marketing.
Yeah.
I almost fell out of my chair. And he really gets it. And so for anybody listening, go back and check out that episode with Jack Burley. If you've thought about starting a blog for your company and you're just not sure, is it really going to be worth the time? How are we going to, what if we run out of content? Little tip, you won't, especially if you understand your audience and what is challenging them, what is lighting them up. Have a good content strategy. You'll never run out of content. And Jack will walk you through how they do it at Big Kaiser. I was really impressed. They work with a firm, a marketing firm. Sadly, it's not Felt, but that's okay. They're doing a great job for them. And they help them with content. He also puts the responsibility on different people in the organization and says, hey, need a blog post from you next month and from you. So it's not on one person. And it's this different perspective all the time. I was really, really impressed with that. So if as a listener and a manufacturer, you've thought, God, is a blog worth our time? And how do we go about doing it? And then how do we leverage it? Check out that episode with Jack. You'll be enlightened.
One of the threads that we'll keep picking up on as we go along, the engineer in him kind of made him, he built processes around this stuff. So it wasn't like we throw it over the wall and now it's the responsibility of the marketing department. It's like, no, he built the process, got the outside help where they need help, has the regular, he created routine around it and metrics and those types of things. And it's, that's what's necessary. You don't have to be an engineer to build that. They're just predisposed to do it. And more companies should. So that was awesome.
Yeah. And definitely de-siloing sales, marketing, and operations.
Yeah.
It's bringing them together.
Yep.
What a concept.
Moving on.
Yes.
Mr. Windbound himself.
Greg Michio.
Yes, he is. The big
Episode
D.
31.
Yes, indeed.
The inventor of the digital twin.
Well, sort of, for marketing.
Well, that's what was so cool about his concept of the digital twin. He is the king of content. Yeah. And not just for anybody, but specifically for manufacturers, which of course I love that. He gets it. He can take technical information and really bring it to life. Yeah. Make it interesting. Pull the story out around it. Mm-hmm. And with his digital twin, he said, so many customers are searching for answers online. Mm-hmm. Marketing must also create a digital twin, but not of a machine or a process. You need a digital twin of your sales team so that it's working while they're sleeping. Yeah. Man. And one of my favorite quotes from him was, as we move into Industry 4.0, creating a digital twin of your sales team online is crucial. Be there when your salespeople can't.
Yeah. Well, let's take that back. What did Kurt Anderson say? You want your customer to be able to make a buying decision at midnight on Friday instead of having to wait till Monday. Yes. That's having that digital, footprint out there, whatever that looks like, but it has to be there. And part of it too, I liked a quote I grabbed from, stop keeping your secrets a secret.
Yeah.
You can share your genius without spilling all the secret sauce, which is true. Because I'm a marketing geek. I like dabbling. I'm not a ninja like you, but I like dabbling. And you go to Windbound's website and it's like, he's telling everybody everything. Not really. He's sharing the genius of his firm's experience, out there. To really do it is a whole nother, that's where you really need to pick up the phone and get a hold of them. But
yes. And we've collaborated with manufacturers. And I think that's the coolest part is, Felt will help them strengthen their brand infrastructure and really firm up those roots. And then he's the guy with his team that can help bring that content to life, really fire up your content engine and really hit the mark. Like, it's not like you have to handhold or get him up to speed. Mm-hmm. They already speak your customer's language. So they already speak architect. They already speak distributor. They totally get how to connect the dots and really help you bring out your personality and find your voice. I think that's what I love about Greg.
He's an awesome guy. Very prolific on LinkedIn. You got to follow him. So you got to find him there. He's a regular participant in some of the Exit Your Way roundtables. You hear him on stuff with Kurt Anderson. So you need to get in his orbit and see the stuff that he's pumping out. Recently, he's found some amazing statistics on what's working, who's responding how, in what industries. He's got access to some crazy reports on some things. I don't know what I don't want to know how he gets them, but his name does end in a vowel. I'm just saying.
I love it.
Anyway, awesome guy. Moving on. We had Mr. Rich Sade.
Episode 32, the race to manufacturing 4.0.
Yeah. And so many other things. Rich,
yes.
What a great guy. What stood out for you? Do
you he had so much to share with our listeners. He retired, and like so many manufacturers that we know and stories we've shared, they still got one more in them. Retiring is really not an option. So the exact reason that he is looking to purchase a manufacturing operation right now, and I think really reignite it. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I love about his spirit and what he brought to that episode. And he said, I guess this is the thing I liked. if you want to get in the manufacturing 4.0 game, walk before you run. Start with one machine, pay attention to the data. And, he said it's like starting somewhere, or starting something, but make sure you start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's start small and then you can scale.
Yeah.
But don't wait or don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yep.
Either
Yep.
scenario would be bad.
Well, I think he brings such a well-rounded operations perspective, because he's done turnarounds, before. He's an operations guy. He's really worked front door to back door in operating environments. And to go along with what you said about, industry 4.0, industrial IoT, those types of things, buzzwords that may be frightening some people or that they're not sure about. He really has a holistic view. What I had grabbed, he says, equipment, operations, processes, and sales, it's all important. Look at it from 40,000 feet. Look at it that way first. Bring it together to create a holistic system. So
Yes.
that's, it's like, here are all the pieces. You can't run the business in isolation. Well, I'm good at sales, so I'm only going to focus here, and everything else will take care of itself. It won't. You really have to look at all of it. And with that perspective, to be as excited and knowledgeable about Industry 4.0 as he is, that's somebody that I think manufacturers that are on the fence, are not sure about, do we want to do this sort of thing or not? Rich is a guy you should be following, or at least reach out to.
Yeah.
Because he speaks manufacturing and can give you some real good insights.
For sure. He is, it's like, I think he would laugh at this. You can teach an old dog new tricks, but I think you got to be curious and want to learn. And that's what is so amazing about him, is that he's not, a 20 something, and he's very much on this growth trajectory in terms of learning and innovation, and I think breaking tech down so that it's understandable and so that it really works for the organization. And also a de-siloing guy, which is one of the reasons I loved him, is, again, de-siloing marketing, sales, and operations and really connecting them.
Yep. Nailed it.
Thank you for listening to MFG Out Loud with Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore. You can subscribe and find show notes at mfgoutloud.com.